Hey Lancers! So one of the big questions we get at the library, and one of the things that we come across with students all the time, is starting your research or starting a paper and the problems that we come across. So this video, we're just going to talk about the research question and how to start your projects. But one of the most important things I want you to remember is that research is rarely, if ever, linear, meaning that you're never really going to start and finish with what you think or what you're hoping to get. My favorite story to tell about this when I'm in front of a class is when I was in grad school and I was on like hours 17 to 20 of kind of working on a paper in terms of research and writing, and realizing that everything I was talking about was wrong because I didn't quite research it right and I didn't really know where I was going. So I either had to scrap it all together or try and cobble something new or go in a different direction. And so you usually end up taking different directions. So I hope that you're open to the idea of changing as you go along and starting that process. But the biggest thing to know is that we have to start with a good question. And the worst thing that we can do is thinking of, I already know what I want to say. If you approach your paper or approach a topic and saying, this is what I want to talk about, or this is what I want to say, and I need some sort of research or some references to back that up, you're going to get really frustrated. The reason for that is because you can usually find something to say what you want it to. There's research out there, or there's something on the internet. You can always find something to back up your opinion. But to make a true research question, we want to start with a question that we're going to try and find an answer to that might open us up to more questions. So we want to start everything that we do with a question and not a truth. It's a great example one of our other librarians said in a class, and it really struck with me. So once we have our question, we're going to try and make a plan. So once we have our very specific research question, we need to identify, what do I need to know to answer that question? Right? Do I need an overview or a definition or some background information? Do I need facts? So we need to kind of match, or we need to know what it is that we need to answer that question, and then match that need with a source. Okay, so we need to know what sources are out there and what information is in each source so that we can get the correct information to answer our question. We then get to the writing, right? And I know that a lot of people like to leave their writing to maybe either the night before or last minute, maybe. It's not the ideal, but I would always say, however you write it, that's up to you, but research is very difficult to leave to the last minute. So you need to kind of make this plan and help yourself out. Oop. So as an example, we want to start with a broad topic. So if I have an example in class where this is from an English 100 class, so trying to talk about a trend, and if I thought about, well, comics are being made into movies a lot. So I would want to try and focus my question on maybe the causes or the impacts or what's going into why that's happening. So a good question is going to be something that can't be answered in one sentence, right? If you have to write 20 pages, you don't really want to have to write over and over and over again just to fill 20 pages, if it can be answered down to a sentence. So you want it to also make you think of other questions. So you want it to lead you down different paths or include things that you can bring in from somewhere else. And those questions will usually start with something like why, which, or how. Questions that aren't so good have very simple answers, and they can be answered with one word or sentence, as I just said, and they usually start with when, who, where, or how many. Right? So taking my example of comic books being made into movies, not so great examples would be something like, do fans like movies based on their favorite comics? Well, that's kind of a yes-no answer, right? So we don't really want to use that. Or what is the top-grossing comic turned movie franchise? Again, that's kind of a one-word answer. It's very simple. What is the best movie based on a comic? It's kind of an opinion, and you can't really find research to back that up. Or something like, why do they keep reimagining Spider-Man? Right? We're on the 4th or 5th one, and none of them are really good. So why are we doing that? Right? So again, it's kind of a biased opinion question. So if we take those and we want to turn them into a good question, we could do something like, how does the representation of a superhero change from the page to the screen? Right? That gives you a lot of different ways to look at it, different avenues to go down. And as you're trying to write or research, that may lead you to other questions that you can pull into your paper. Similar to, how is the prevalence of American motion pictures affecting Canadian productions? right? That lets you go into the film industry as well as Canadian issues or ideas of tourism and taxes, or a lot of other issues in there. What is the what is the affect of 1960s culture sensibilities on the cinema of the 21st century? How have things changed? Why are we making movies based today on things that happened back in the 50s or 60s when comics were pretty racist? So why are we still making that into our society today, or how are we changing them? Or something like, why is the franchise of the Hulk different than those of the other Avengers, right? Why does he get the shaft, right? So, in order to answer our question, we need to think about what it is that we need to know, right? What information is going to have to go into our paper to answer that question? So do we need something like a historical context, some facts, a general overview, a scholarly analysis, some stats, or some studies, right? What is it that's going to help you answer your question? So then we match our need with our source. And well, what kind of information sources are there? It's just like people, that it takes all kinds of sources. And we're going to get to that in another video. So if you're interested in that, make sure you click on the video, we'll say right here. And if you have any other questions, please, as always, put your questions about the library or anything in general down in the comments below, and we'll try to answer them in other videos. Thanks, guys.